With potential spoilers for the WWE Draft and Eric Bischoff saying the war between AEW and WWE is just getting started, this is Wrestling Up. My name is John and you're watching the Wrestling Report for September 30th. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Up and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. With her being released from WWE earlier this year, Chelsea Green has found herself back in Impact Wrestling. While being let go was a shock to Green, she mentioned on Busted Open Radio that her constantly pitching creative ideas rub people the wrong way in the company. Yes, absolutely. I absolutely think that, but then that's not the type of person that I am. When I did have my meeting with Vince, he was very appreciative of all the ideas, so I have to think that he's okay with the ideas. It's the maze that you have to get through to get to him. Those are all the people that are annoyed along the way, and I don't blame them. Imagine how many people are in that company, and I'm one of 200 people on the main roster spitballing ideas to them weekly. I probably gave them 3 ideas a week. That's going to be annoying. In that same interview, Green also touched on her WWE release, saying, "Honestly, I did not see it coming. There was not one part of me that saw it coming. The funny thing is, I got fired on maybe a Wednesday. I had my outfit sitting out for Friday because I had been consistently showing up, getting TV ready, sitting my butt in the car, driving to Tampa, and showing up at Raw and SmackDowns to try and get booked. My arm had been fine. I had been cleared for about 2 months. I had been showing up to TV ready to go with my gear in my car. So when that all came, it was about 3 days after I had actually contacted office to say, hey, surprise, it's me again. I have another idea. I'm coming to TV on Friday to pitch it to you guys." So I had no clue. I think my initial reaction was that I had no reaction, and I was just down to business. I opened up my Pro Wrestling Tee store, then contacted Ring of Honor, NWA, and Impact and stuff. But then later on, slowly as time has gone by, it's been one of, I just think it was a missed opportunity, and I'm a little upset, but I think I'm more pissed about it. I'm pissed that I was at the top of my game. I was the Knockouts champion. I was main eventing Lucha Underground. They chose me to be one of the 4 females at All In, and then I sat for 2 years, or almost 2.5 years. A lot of people are blaming that on my arm, but I broke my arm for 6 weeks out of those 2.5 years. That's no excuse. Absolutely no excuse not to use somebody. When it comes to WWE's plans for next year, it appears there is a front runner to host Summerslam with it set on Wrestling Observer Radio. There is a report that Summerslam next year is going to be in Cardiff, Wales. That is far from a done deal. Obviously, there is talk of Cardiff, Wales, and probably somewhere else in the UK, so that would be interesting time slot wise. That's why I don't think it's going to be Summerslam, because it would have to be in the afternoon, and I don't know if they'll want to do that. With Peacock, it's not like they'll lose pay-per-view buys over it, because they have guaranteed money. Since they're guaranteed the money, they should do a pay-per-view in the UK. I mean, they should have done one a year, like one of those B shows every year. It was also reported that WWE is working towards bringing fans back in attendance for NXT UK TV tapings. On Dynamite Grand Slam, the show opened with Bryan Danielson facing off against AEW champion Kenny Omega. This was a highly praised bout by fans and critics alike, with a rematch expected to be a barn burner when it takes place. On his 83 Weeks podcast, Eric Bischoff explained why putting this match on first was a smart idea. "I thought it was brilliant to put it on free TV. Look, much like WCW was, at this point in stage of their evolution, AEW is primarily a TV company, and TV drives pay-per-views and vice versa. As AEW is continuing to grow their audience, which they are, what better way to continue to grow that audience for your foundation for the future than putting the match on free television? There's still not even half of a decent rating on SmackDown. They're probably only about 65% of a decent rating on Raw. They've got ground to cover. What better way to cover or begin to cover it by bringing in Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega and putting it on free TV? They're going to make their money on pay-per-view, especially with that time limit draw finish down the line. But as an investment, what a fantastic way to open that show." Speaking of the match between Omega and Danielson, Booker T noted on his Hall of Fame podcast why fans were not upset with this match going to a time limit draw. Even with the finish, I don't think the AEW fans were mad at that, just because they're rabid. They want just good action more than anything. But then again, I'm seeing someone like Omega and Danielson inside the squared circle. That's a match we don't see on a weekly basis or anything like that. It's not about the money, it's about the excitement, how much we can draw, how much money we can make. I think that it's going to be about the best going up against the best. With AEW Dynamite now beating Monday Night Raw in the 18-49 demographic, Eric Bischoff noted on his podcast why this ratings war is just getting started, and why fans should not overestimate the importance of the previously mentioned demo rating. I think if you're an executive in a media buying company or advertising agency, I think the 18-49 demographic matters. To the rest of the world, it doesn't mean anything, but it is something that everybody can pat themselves on the back for. I'm talking about AEW supporters and fans. I'm not knocking it, by the way. I'm excited that everybody is excited, but when somebody asks me, what do you think about the focus on the 18-49 demo, it's primarily driven by the internet wrestling community and people that write for it. It's not new. It's been the way since I made the decision to go after the 18-49 male demo, not because I was brilliant, but because I knew there was no way I was going to beat WWE at what WWE was doing back before Nitro launched. 18-49 has always been important. Today it's much of a conversation because it's a line item that those who are anti-WWE and pro-AEW can go, yeah, but AEW beat WWE in the demo. Big deal. AEW on Wednesday night, with no real competition for 18-49, gets a higher percentage of a demo than Monday Night Raw, going head to head with Monday Night Football, where the vast majority of the 18-49-year-olds that watch wrestling also watch football. It's like me getting into a fistfight with Mike Tyson's kid, and coming out of that on top. I'm just making this up, and if he did or he does, and I were to mop the floor with the 16 to 18-year-old kid, that's like me walking around saying I beat the tar out of Tyson. It was the very best lineup on AEW's roster against the developmental squad of WWE. Not really competition, folks. That's not the same thing, but everybody wants there to be, and I do too. I'm one of you, but all of us want there to be that Monday Night Wars vibe. We want that as fans because it was fun, and history has taught us that it actually raises the tide and everyone's boat floats higher when it happens. So we want that, but it's not really a war yet. With him being WWE Champion, Big E is expected to be drafted to the Raw roster, which creates possibilities for feuds with stars like McIntyre. Talking to Ariel Helwani, he touched on part-timers in the company, saying he would take the big money deal to wrestle only a couple matches a year, but his goal as champion is to focus on full-time roster members. I'm not here to demean anyone being a part-timer. If someone said I'll give you $5 million to wrestle 2 times in a year, who is going to turn that down? I'm not one to judge anyone's contract, but I do understand the perception that we're the guys on all the shows, we're doing live events, media for 3 hours, and putting the work in, many times for less money. My focus moving forward is on the guys here on a nightly basis and in the locker room every week. Of course, I want to face the Keith Lees. Let's get the Hurt Business back together. There's so many guys I want to focus on. I understand the backlash with people seeing older guys coming back, but I'm just asking for one night, one match, then we'll all move on. Big E was able to stop the threat of Lashley and retain his WWE title, as McIntyre made his way out on Raw, hinting at a rivalry between the two. With WWE hosting a draft that will start tomorrow night on SmackDown and end on Raw next week, Andrew Zarian noted on the Madman Pro Wrestling podcast that some NXT stars are likely getting called up. I was told that everybody is under the assumption that NXT talent is going to be involved in the draft. It's going to be one-sided. It's not going to be two sides, but don't be shocked if you see a main roster superstar go down to NXT every now and then like a Mandy Rose. You know, someone like that. It is interesting because Hit Row is a name that people have thrown out there. LA Knight is a name that people have thrown out there. It should be noted that NXT stars Aaliyah, Xia Li, Casey Catanzaro, Dakota Kai, and Austin Theory have been involved in main roster dark matches over the last month, as this draft is shaping up to be a big one. As Shane McMahon has not been seen on TV in WWE, he has become executive chairman of Ideanomics during this time. Now reports have come out regarding his contract status for WWE. Fightful had recently heard that Shane McMahon was no longer with the company. However, when we inquired with WWE reps, we were told he was still a WWE talent and under a deal, though it was also noted that he's rarely if ever at WWE offices anymore. Given that legends of pro wrestling still want to be showcased in some sort of contest on TV or pay-per-view, cinematic matches have provided an opportunity to have a match without the burdens of taking bumps and so on. On Wrestling Observer Radio, it was noted that hardcore legend Mick Foley is interested in taking part in this. You know, Mick Foley said he wanted to do a cinematic match. There was a comedy show and someone in the crowd asked for one more match, and he said I could do a cinematic match. That was just a couple of hours ago at the show. Arn Anderson had some harsh words for Cody Rhodes, which seemed to indicate that if Cody does not get his act together and start winning, then Anderson will be parting ways with the American Nightmare. As Arn said, a man jerks your door open and says, "Out of the car, I'm taking your car. You can take it, just don't hurt me." You know what I do? I pull out the Glock, put it to his forehead, and spill his brains all over the concrete. I'm Arn Anderson, and all that implies, and I'll be damned if I'm gonna coach a loser. This would lead to AA trending on Twitter, as it was shocking for fans to hear references of guns and spilling of brains on TV. And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.